Millionaire sees a homeless girl teaching his son to walk. What he discovers brings him to tears. It was a golden morning in Central Park. The crisp scent of autumn hung in the air, and sunlight danced on leaves like little shards of hope scattered across the ground. Among the usual morning joggers, strollers, and dog walkers, a tall man in a navy blue tailored suit stood out. Richard Langston. Tech tycoon. Billionaire. Father. He walked with purpose, but a deep weariness sat behind his eyes, something money couldn't mask. In his hands, he pushed a high-end stroller carrying his 2-year-old son, Oliver. The child, with big curious eyes and soft curls, was his only tether to a world that had felt increasingly empty since his wife's death. Richard had lost his wife, Grace, in a car accident a year ago. Since then, he had drowned himself in work, believing that success and structure would fill the gaping hole grief had carved into his heart. But in all his wealth and routine, he'd neglected one thing: time. Time with his son. Time to feel. That morning, while sitting on a bench near the fountain, Richard opened his laptop and began scrolling through emails. Oliver, eager and full of life, squirmed his way out of the stroller and toddled off across the grass. "I just need 1 minute," Richard muttered, his eyes glued to the screen. But that 1 minute would change everything. When he finally looked up, Oliver was gone. Panic hit like a tidal wave. Richard leaped from the bench, shouting his son's name, scanning the park with wild eyes. "Oliver! Oliver!" And then he saw him under a tree near the hedge, holding the hands of a young girl who looked barely 15. Her clothes were ragged, hair unkempt, but her expression was tender. She gently supported Oliver's arms as he wobbled, taking unsure but excited steps. Richard rushed toward them. "Oliver," he called breathlessly, scooping the child into his arms. "Are you okay?" The girl stepped back. "He's okay, sir. He was just trying to walk." Richard glanced at her. She was dirty, clearly homeless. A worn-out backpack lay beside her. But there was a strange calm in her eyes, kindness, maybe even wisdom. "What were you doing with him?" he asked, more startled than accusatory. "I was just helping him walk," she said softly. "That's all. I didn't want him to fall." Richard's heart, still pounding from the scare, softened a little. "What's your name?" "Lena." He nodded slowly, cradling Oliver. "Thank you, Lena." She smiled, shrugging. "I didn't do much. I just don't like seeing anyone fall." He noticed her thin frame, the holes in her shoes, the way she clutched her backpack like it was her only possession. Something about her innocence, her sincerity, struck him. She didn't ask for money. She didn't even seem to expect gratitude. She had done it purely out of instinct. That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the scene. A homeless girl, someone the world would overlook, had given his son more genuine affection and attention in those few moments than he had in days. And for what? Nothing in return. The next morning, he returned to the park, this time with warm breakfast and a cup of hot cocoa. She was there, sitting under the same tree. "You came back," she said, surprised. "I brought you something," he replied, handing her the food. Her eyes lit up, and for the first time, he saw her smile fully. They began to talk. Lena told him bits of her story, how she grew up in foster care, bouncing from home to home. At 14, she ran away, tired of being unwanted. Since then, she'd been surviving. Some nights in shelters, most nights on benches. "But I read," she added, pulling out a tattered book from her bag. "Whenever I find a library, I study. I want to become a child psychologist someday." Richard was stunned. "Even with all you've gone through, you still dream." She nodded. "Dreams are the only things that don't get taken from you." That sentence hit him like a punch to the chest. Over the following weeks, he kept coming back. Not just for Oliver, but for Lena. He brought her books, food, and more importantly, time. They talked about grief, about loneliness, about resilience. Slowly, a quiet friendship grew between the billionaire and the girl the world had forgotten. Then one morning, he said, "Come live with us." She froze. "What? I mean it. I have space. You can have your own room. I'll help you enroll in school. You don't owe me anything." But Lena shook her head. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," he said gently. "It's a thank you. You didn't let my son fall, and you reminded me what really matters." She hesitated, then smiled through misty eyes. "Okay." And so, the girl who once called park benches her bed moved into a quiet room with a bookshelf and sunlight pouring in through clean windows. She studied hard, never asking for more than she needed. She helped with Oliver, who grew attached to her like a sister. And Richard? He found something in her presence that he hadn't felt since Grace, peace. Years passed. Lena graduated top of her class. Went to college. Became exactly what she'd dreamed of, a child psychologist working with vulnerable and abandoned children. At her graduation ceremony, she stood on stage in her cap and gown, looked out at the crowd, and saw Richard and Oliver smiling back at her, tears in their eyes. And she said, "There was a time when I was invisible. Just a girl no one wanted. But then one day, I helped a little boy take a few steps, and his father helped me take the first steps toward my future. I learned that sometimes, it only takes one act of kindness to change two lives, maybe more." The audience rose to their feet. And in the front row, Richard whispered, "You didn't just help my son walk, Lena, you helped me live again." Final message. In a world